Welcome to all the high vibrational beings that resonate with my messages. Today, I'd like to start off breaking down my timeline. This is going to be my first real downloaded message that I am feeling called to start with, even though I have if you've listened to any of my timeline messages, I have a plethora of information to speak on. And I will be breaking down every part of it as it pertains to the way that I've awakened and healed on my journey. And I will only always speak about things that I can prove because I've been through it. So just know that. Thank you to everybody who has been subscribing and liked my videos and commenting. I am honored, I am humbled, and I just want to really let you know that I am flabbergasted every day to see all the new subscribers. Thank you. I am happy to hear that this is information that potentially wants to be heard by others. So I am going to start off today by talking about mold and mycotoxins. This is going to be a subject that I will end up breaking down in so many different ways because the way I'd like to start talking about it, I was planning to actually come in and start talking about, what you can do in your space and, the proper, what to put in your body, what you need to do physically and, spiritually and things like that, to, get yourself up and out of that, to that type of illness, disease, whatever. So I'd like to start off by saying that what I'm going to talk about was something that was brought to my attention where I began to think about it in a deeper way than I had yet. And this example that I'm going to give you is exactly what flow state is about. And it is exactly what when you're called to pay attention to the signs and synchronicities, this is just that. This is about the universe speaking through a different human vessel who then therefore spoke to me. This is about one of my newer subscribers that we actually had a conversation briefly about this. And I'm going to paraphrase what he had said, but he mentioned the fact that he liked how I incorporated how not only can mold and mycotoxins affect you on a physical level, but how it connects spirit with the spiritual side of things as well. And how that can go hand in hand. And the way he said it, ever since I've read that message, which by the way, thank you, man. I appreciate you. I'll keep your name to myself for your privacy's sake. But it really was one of those moments where I had the best and biggest epiphany about it today. And it's these epiphanies that I've been having that I've wanted to share with people because it's moments where I'm like, my God, whoa, this is so much deeper than any of us ever knew. Or have we thought about it in this way, And I'm able to take these downloads that I'm getting and now finally share them with people who potentially want to listen to these. Because all I've had for practice previously is people who are unawakened and unhealed and therefore do not want to listen, get very angry and resist so much. So, this is definitely not going to be for everybody. And I'm going to put the disclaimer out there that this is for entertainment purposes only. But I am also wanting to put out there that I will never, ever speak about something that I have never experienced myself, even though I may be getting downloaded information about it. It all kind of happens in tandem to be able to give you what you need to give you your wisdom and your knowledge. So what he had said, was I never put that connection together. So today I had some amazing downloads because I started really thinking about what he had said. And I even spoke to my spirit team yeah, there is a connection to this. I need to think on this more, and I need to receive, more downloaded information about this. And when you ask, you receive. And I received a lot. And so here is what came through. So, okay. Mold, black, like we'll just use black mold, for instance, because it's the visual most people know about. You see it in a house, you see it when it's there, and we just know, ooh, it's bad. But most people don't do anything about it because we don't know how bad it is, because it has, that kind of information has been kept from the general public unless you are the top 1%. So that'll make you physically sick. Toxins will make you physically sick. Let's go back to Nazi Germany, where they had gas chambers. What is gas chamber? That's a toxin. And you're putting a human inside a toxic chamber. And that was in such high concentrations, so they would, die sooner. They would pass sooner. Now with mold and mycotoxin, depending upon everybody's toxic level within their cup, they will either die a quick death in their toxic chamber, which is their home, if their home is riddled with mold, or they'll die a slow and painful death and get diseases. What is the root cause of all disease, everyone? Inflammation. What creates inflammation? What's one thing at least? Toxins. All over, in your gut, and your nervous system, your endocrine system, your brain, giving you this is what creates seizures for people. And so, okay, so let's think about it like this. I'm going to break it down like this. This is how I started breaking it down, is I went, okay, what does Western medicine have to gain? I'm sorry, I got to step back one more bit. Is after experiencing what I experienced and all the research I did in my time, I was finding out things like they were using mold and mycotoxins up until the 1950s. Specifically, there was a date 1952. You can look this up, that they were using mycotoxins in biowarfare. I'm sure there still are to this day. So the fact that they know that, and then you know the fact that Western medicine is not educated at all in mold. And they don't even have, technically, they say they don't have the proper testing, but functional doctors do. But guess what? Functional doctors aren't covered by insurance. And why is that? Think about it. We'll get back to all that. Okay, so all these thoughts of, and then especially when I had realized and did research that 80% of the homes in the United States are mold infested. I'm like, God, that's crazy, and that all of our homes are obviously built with, the ones that can't control what their homes are built with wood. I bet the top 1% maybe chooses to do other things, potentially. But again, they have the money so that if their wood does get infested, they can just cut it out, get new, and start over again. So 80% of the people in the United States have mold-infested homes that are too high-level toxin for our human bodies. And if you can't feel it, and if you haven't had a health concern show its little dirty face, it doesn't mean that you don't. I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you could be one of the 20%. I honestly feel 80% is low. But we'll go with it. It's still a pretty high number, right? So let's say you figure out that, or if you're somebody who doesn't show symptoms, it's still happening. Your body is still, if you end up dying young or getting Alzheimer's or all disease, okay? All disease. What is this? Anything. Diabetes, celiacs, dementia, Alzheimer's, all mental illness. Like any mental illness can be brought on by that as well. Inflammation, right? Also stuck trauma, but that's just another part to this. Okay. So And, so I'm thinking about all this stuff. And then when I realized I had moved 10 times and 9 of those homes, 90% had mold in a supposed dry state. Well, I mean, it is drier than where I'm at now. But that's what, like, think about that I had 90% of homes in a dry state. Think about what's happening in a wet state. I'm assuming that's probably 100%, unless, again, you're part of the 1%. So that means that pretty much a large majority of the population in the United States is living in toxic gas chambers and dying slow, painful deaths. And the ones that get, like I say, that get lucky without getting an illness or a disease, they may still be dealing with inflammation on a light level. Maybe they deal with certain gut issues. I mean, that's what, lactose and all these things, like Crohn's, everything is inflammation, people. Okay? Just do some research if this doesn't make sense. But I have, so I can, like I say, like I've mentioned before, I can give out what I have experienced based off the information I have learned. And then you put the pieces of the puzzle together, and you conclude, you problem solve, So with all this happening, I'm like, God, that means that, like, yeah, so many people on a physical level are getting, have toxin overload or toxin situations going on. And that's just one reason. Obviously, trauma is another reason where that can be something then that would obviously create that as well. But we're just speaking on this right now. So, okay, so I was like, now my question then is what does the Western medicine have to gain from not acknowledging this, keeping society blinded from this information? Because that was another thing I noticed is nobody knows any information about mold, especially if you've never dealt with it. And even when the ones that have still don't know, because it's so much information when you have to learn how to heal yourself. I have so many hours of education and research into this, and I still am only like, probably tip of the iceberg type of information. But it's enough to have a firm grasp and a firm understanding of how to heal from it and also how to survive and thrive through it. So going back to his comment then, there's a correlation. There's a connection between the spiritual side of inflammation or mold and mycotoxins, and there's that physical. So it makes you sick. So what does Western medicine have to gain? What do insurance companies have to gain? What do pharmaceutical companies have to gain? Money, money, money. And so where does that money go to? The top 1% who know about all this. Like I mentioned, you would never none of them would ever allow any black mold or just mold in general, because they know that it would kill them. Or they would end up getting an illness that they don't want to have to deal with, So this is going to get deep, people. So try to follow, okay? Okay, so we have that side, right? You have this physical side of okay, that makes sense. So once I know why something is going to probably stay away in society, it helps me know what I need to do to get away from that, to reprogram myself away from that. And that was something I saw 27 years ago. That was brought on, I'm not going to get into all that, but I talk about it in my timelines. So going back to the comment from my subscriber, I started thinking about, wait, this is true. Because wait a minute. Yeah. Toxins are low vibrational, okay, wait, sorry. Let's go back to first that physical side. So if you don't release the low energy and the low vibrations on a physical, like with, releasing fear, anger, shame, and guilt, what happens? That's an avenue for energy vampire powers that were, maybe your your karmic narcissistic family or karmic narcissists in general, to be able, or flunkies, whatever, spell work, whatever. This is an entrance now into your energy space and into your human body to be able to keep you connected to them so that they're draining your energy and you barely have enough energy to get yourself up out of bed and maybe get yourself to work. Now, what does that do to you? It keeps you stuck in the matrix. Okay, so that's on the physical side. So then, he said, yeah, the spiritual side. And I was like, okay, let me think about this. Yeah, hold on. Right. So toxin on the spiritual side is, yeah, low vibration. Sure. And inflammation then, okay, would be low vibrational. The repercussion of, the toxin. So therefore, basically leaving another entrance point, because the whole point of trying to release all your trauma is so that you heal, but healing in the way where it's also keeping you in higher vibrations so that you don't have entrance points for the low vibrational energy vampires to suck you dry of energy. Okay. So I was like thinking about all the homes I was in, because I was in a good, I had really mastered the physical healing side of it, and was like, really realizing each house that I would still encounter these issues, where it felt like I was getting like spiritually attacked. And I'm like, but I'm doing everything fit on the physical form right. Well, if you're in a house that still has toxins, and let's say you're still eating well, no. You have to eat well. Because let's say you're eating well, but then you're like, having cheat days. When you're in a toxin house, that matters, because that cheat day in a house that doesn't have mold wouldn't probably matter as much, unless there's something tied to it. But if it's just, you being like, that's my fun day, and you're in high vibration about it. But if you have a cheat day and you're in a toxin house, you've just given access to a energy vampire to have access to your energy space. And I was able to confirm that with that download that came through, because I'll get my downloads from source, and then I always confirm it with what I've experienced. And like, oh my God, that's the truth. And so, yeah, in fact, you just saw my angels all around me. So there is a correlation so, okay, now how do the powers that were gain from keeping us in the dark and not allowing any information to be spread about how to help, even, how bad mold is and how bad, just any information about it. Because the powers that were want to keep us, unaware and blinded by this information, because if we knew, we can awaken to it. We can see the truth that, yes, it's a way to control us. It's definitely population control, but it's also a way to control the ones that are alive still. It's basically their way to puppeteer you, is by like, it's not a big deal. You can have any amount of mold in you. And so many people are just blindly believing this information. I mean, I was one of them for many years. And you don't question it until you have something happen. At least that's my soul contract knew. My soul knew. That's why we signed the contract, that I had to experience everything in order to be able to speak on it. And that's anybody that's trying to send out information. You should always do your research and have your own physical, personal proof on this. And so, yeah, I can speak from those last homes where I had gotten everything down pat, that I was still experiencing this resistance. And I'm like, what is this? Where's this coming from? Like, I know I still have a little bit of residual this and that maybe to get rid of, but come on, like kind of one of those scenarios. So that's how I was able to confirm that. Yeah. Because it was during those moments too that I'd have my inflammation would be extremely inflamed. And that I would notice that, certain weird thoughts would come into my head of negative and low vibrations, and this and that. So I just wanted to put this as food for thought, to start a conversation about this. I have so much more I could get into, but I'm going to start trying to keep my videos short. We're at 20 minutes. Since if any of you have listened to the timeline, I'm going to try to, like I had mentioned, keep these shorter, to be able to absorb the information a little bit better. I'm going to try to be able to hopefully slow down in my speaking as well, so that you can really soak this in, because I get this is going to be very shocking and a lot of information, maybe overload for some people. But for some of you, you're going to see the truth the way I have and the way I've experienced. And so this is just for all of you that are dealing with mold and mycotoxin exposure, toxins in general, any chronic illness in general. And this goes hand in hand, by the way, with parasites. They're the physical vampire eating us from within. And so when you have that toxin and that inflammation, you have parasites too. See, so there is a connection there too. That they're, the parasites and the bad bacteria being overpopulated over the good bacteria, and your microbiome being out of balance, all can stay that way when, you have somebody draining your energy. And so, okay, 2202, we'll just end on a 20, the twos, because I've been seeing lots of twos lately, and if you have confirmation that this is meant for you. So I'm sending you all my love, so much gratitude for listening, sending props out to my subscriber who was the vessel for Source to speak through you, to allow me to open up to this message. And I would love to hear comments. And so sending out my love, light, and all the protection for all the high vibrational beings that resonate with my messages. Thank you so much.